Game filled with potential optimism for Arsenal ends in defeats. And I, for one, am not pleased about it. But we're going to talk about all that and, of course, transfer deadline day in today's Arsenal Transfer Show, the last, penultimate of the summer. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you on transfer deadline day. It's actually going to be quite a busy one, it looks like, for Arsenal. We've got plenty to look forward to. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Apologies, of course, for the audio not being the same as usual. I'm not at home. I'm not in the studio. I am still in Liverpool currently. Of course, after yesterday's game, travelling home a little bit later on this morning. So it's not going to be a super long show because I need to catch a train. So do forgive me for that. So forgive me for the audio and the surroundings and all the usual stuff and the hair and whatever. But good morning to you all joining us in the chat. Thank you so much for doing so. And can I just take a second, of course, to thank you all for joining us throughout the transfer window. Of course, we've been doing these shows every single day, besides kind of a little break in June, where we, of course, went away to Canada. But besides that, it's been a brilliant summer of fun. I think, transfer window wise, Arsenal have had an absolutely excellent window. I don't think we're going to have too many complaints at all about what Arsenal have or have not done so far. And they're not finished either, because they're looking to, of course, complete the signing of Piero Hincapié today. Some outgoings, of course, are expected as well. It's shaping up to be a rather interesting day, I think, from an Arsenal perspective. So plenty to be excited about and plenty to be reflective about as well, based upon yesterday's game. I don't have a slideshow for you this morning because I'm in a massive rush. I've already been up writing and typing stories this morning for Football.London, of course, where you'll be able to follow all of the latest regarding Arsenal's transfer escapades this summer. We'll have, of course, our live blog running over on the website. I'll be providing you with stories throughout the day, even though I'm not technically meant to start until later on. It's deadline day. I've started at 6 a.m. and it's going to carry on until, I'm sure, the late hours of this evening as well. And, I've got my phone very much on loud as we are expecting so many messages, calls, discussions, news breaking all throughout the day. So you can hear some vibrating in the background. It's just the phone doing some deadline day notifications for it. Good morning to you all joining us live in the chat box. Thank you so much, as always, for doing so. We've got Kirill, we've got Fiesta, Loga, JRS, we've got Sid and Barry, we've got Steve, Matt G, and Bali, we've got Daryl, we've got Claire and Shawnito, we've got Theo and Oslo, we've got, who else in the chat have we got this morning? Carl and Ken. Good morning to everybody joining us. Appreciate you being here. Pen Jensen has been a member with us now for 26 months, of course, on the channel as well. And thank you to all of our members that have continued to support us throughout the summer, throughout the season. And of course, if you are wondering if the show just stops when the transfer window finishes, no, the show goes on. We continue to do these episodes as much as we can every single day, 8 a.m. UK time. So continue to join us throughout the season as we continue to discuss things. So we're going to split this show into two parts. Part one is going to be Liverpool. Part two is going to be you and deadline day. That's kind of how we're going to split it. So let's factor in and focus in on yesterday's game. Did a little bit of a brief summary on my Instagram page if you want to go over and watch that, and a little bit of a behind the scenes look, of course, of traveling for the day and what it's like kind of in the press area for the game at Anfield. But getting to the game, I really went up yesterday with like a level of optimism that I had not had going to Anfield in a long time. Now, Arsenal haven't won at Anfield since 2012. They also hadn't lost to a Big Six team since that 4-1 defeat to Manchester City in April of 2023. They've gone an exceptionally long period of time. We're talking around 800 days without losing to a Big Six side in the Premier League. Their record is excellent. And it's a frustration, I think, that we haven't got key players, of course, going into the game. That has to be talked about. That has to be a factor. No Havertz, no Odegaard from the start, no Saka. Of course, they lost Ben White in the opening day of the season. We've still not seen Christian Norgard, who's not been available. Trossard had an issue in midweek. He didn't play any minutes yesterday. It's incredibly frustrating, of course, that still at the start of this campaign, we're suffering with more problems, more injuries, more issues. And as a result, we went up there with players, of course, who, if we had our fully fit squad, I don't think would have played. And I still had optimism. I still had a sense, a feeling that Arsenal would get something, but they didn't. And the reason they didn't, in my opinion, is because of Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta, for me, is the reason why Arsenal didn't get the result that we should have got yesterday. Arsenal, without a doubt, got the selection wrong. The game management, I think, was wrong. And the way in which we approached the game was wrong. Arsenal went up there to try and snatch victory, and they should have gone up there to grab it. That's kind of my feeling about the game. They should have gone there to grab the win, and instead they went up there, and I felt they tried to kind of, cheese it is a little bit too far, but they didn't go there to take the game by the horns, show Liverpool they mean business, and go for it. And I've got a number of issues with kind of the game and how we went about things and how we set up. And I also put it to Arteta after the game, and I don't necessarily agree with his answer that he gave me, but we'll talk about that as well. So, when you have, in my opinion, two midfielders in Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi, who are, in my opinion, world class level players, top, top, top level midfielders, I don't think you need another box to box, industrious, break up play type of midfielder as your third option. I don't think that you need that player. So when I saw the lineup, my optimism about the game evaporated. It just flitted away. And I just found myself getting so worked up a little bit in some of the conversations I have in pre-match with some of the journalists there as well, um, because I kind of argued the point about Martinelli starting. I didn't really have an issue with Martinelli starting. He was in my lineup yesterday when we did kind of the preview show, and I looked at the way in which Liverpool would set up, the way in which we would probably be hitting them on the counter somewhat, and I thought that Martinelli's presence and speed and defensive capabilities would be valuable. Now, half of that turned out to be true. Half of that was accurate. Martinelli's defensive element of his game was good on the day, as we expect it to be. But quite frankly, that doesn't matter. Because in the grand context of when you go to Liverpool as a team that want to go and win the title, every single element of that forward line has to be a threat. And the word I use to describe Martinelli right now is blunt. He's blunt. He offers a lot, going back, covering, energy, doubling up on Salah, all of that, but isn't a threat. He's not a threat. He was up against the makeshift fullback in Dominic Szoboszlai and rarely got into dangerous positions. There was a brilliant opportunity where he ran through the middle of the park, could have played the ball to Gyökeres and set him through, didn't, held on to it, didn't put his head up, didn't look up, didn't find the ball, lost it, gave away a goal kick. I'm just kind of at a crossroads, but I'm starting to walk down the avenue of it's time to move away from Martinelli. And I don't expect him to leave this season, and I still think that he will be. I still think that he will be a really valuable player in certain points, but his future of being a starting player in this Arsenal team has passed. And I think if you compare what we saw from Martinelli and then the cameo that we saw from Eze, it's just night and day. It's just absolute. What's the word I'm looking for? Like it's perpendicular the way in which we see a performance from one compared to the other. It's contrasting. It's juxtaposed. It's, all these words I'm looking for here. And I thought that Arteta's decision not to bring Martinelli off at half time again was another problem. I don't think we were proactive enough in how we made changes in the game. I don't think we were proactive enough in how we approached taking the advantage to them when we had it in the first half. So when I asked Arteta after the game if he felt, and I said, in the first half, Arsenal were the better team. They had more turnovers, they had more touch in the opposition box, they had more opportunities. We limited Liverpool to not having a single shot on target. But the problem was when we had our better half, our more talented attacking players weren't on the field. No Eze, no Odegaard, no, obviously, some of the players that were missing through injury. And I get that Odegaard couldn't start this game. I 100% get that. But you had Ethan Nwaneri on the bench, who didn't get a single minute. And I don't want to hear the whole, it's a big game for an 18-year-old to come in and start. Because when we were 1-0 down, he brought on a 15-year-old Max Dowman. So let's not pretend for a second that it's something to do with starting Ethan Nwaneri. This is a guy that scored against Manchester City. This is a guy that you're trusting to start in place of Bukayo Saka last season as the first choice option, despite having others he could have picked but didn't. He chose Ethan Nwaneri to cover for Bukayo Saka. The Ethan Nwaneri thing frustrates me somewhat. It frustrates me. And I know he didn't have the best of games against Leeds when he came off the bench for Odegaard, but he was, for me, a better decision to start over Mikel Merino. And the whole he doesn't trust Nwaneri is, I don't go that far. I think that's people just taking things too far and it's hyperbole. Because if he didn't trust him, they could have got a very good fee for him this summer. So I don't believe that for a second. But when it comes to the way in which we have chosen to operate at Anfield, it's just wrong. It was just wrong, in my opinion, the way we chose to operate. He came back to me and said that, there was, in fact, I'll read you the exact quote because that's fairer if I do that. That he said. So let's go to the question. So I said, in the first half, you had a lot more joy than Liverpool in terms of turnovers, chances, touch in the box, but it was also the half where you perhaps had less of your offensive attacking players in the team. Do you feel as though, in hindsight, that the midfield was slightly too conservative for the chances that you created? And he said, well, that's what we had. Martin Odegaard was injured. Kai couldn't play. Merino is a player that is incredible in arriving from those areas. We played with 3 attacking players, 2 attacking fullbacks. After the game, I think it's too easy to say that. And I empathise with that point of view. It is easy to say. It's really easy for me to sit there as someone who sat in the ground, watched the game, written about the game, and to say, after you've lost it, and he could have easily won it as well, they could have drawn it. Let's be really clear about that. It wasn't like we were blown away. It wasn't like Liverpool absolutely deserved to win this game. It wasn't like they were by far the better team. Arsenal were the better team in the first half. Liverpool were the better team in the second half. That's not the issue for me. That's not the problem. The problem that I've got with this is that if Arsenal are going to win the league, you've got to go to these places and stamp your statement down to say, we're here to win it. We're here to steal this crown from you. He spoke about the word crown in the press conference before the game. He talked about how Arsenal have to steal the crown from Liverpool. Well, you don't steal something by going, can I please, can I have the crown? You go, I'm taking that crown and we're coming and battering you in your own ground. A Liverpool team that has looked vulnerable in the opening 2 matches of the season, that has conceded 4 goals. Arsenal, to this point, conceded none. We had the emphasis to go into this game and try to win it and take it. And we didn't do enough to convince me that that's how we set up. There was some really good things that we did in this game. It wasn't all bad. No, it wasn't a case that everyone was bad. Declan Rice was brilliant. Jurriën Timber was brilliant. Calafiori was brilliant. Mosquera did really, really well when coming in for Saliba. I was really impressed with Noni Madueke's performance and covering for Saka. I feel very comfortable about Madueke covering for Saka. There were some really good things in this game. 100%. Eze really excited me when he came off the bench. I thought Ødegaard changed things for us when he came off the bench as well. We looked a little bit more direct and but we couldn't, it was too late. That the opportunity had passed. Liverpool had grown into the game by this point. They'd got encouragement from the way that Arsenal approached things. They got encouragement by the way that we set up in this game. And we lost our, and by the time that Liverpool had kind of got up to speed, we were then playing catch up. We were then blowing. Marino was shattered by this point. The press had kind of fallen away, and that's why he made those changes. That's why Ødegaard came on, and we missed Ødegaard's press in this game in the end. And the way in which he can push the back line constantly and keep the turnovers coming, and he's really important for the transitions from our half to their half, and we missed him, no doubt. And that's why Arsenal's lineup for the City game, for the Newcastle game, when everybody is fit, has to be Ødegaard, Saka, Eze, Gyökeres. That has to be it. For me, the Gyökeres situation is, it's too early to sit here and be like, I'm really worried about this. It's not working. He's flopped, blah, 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 blah. It's too early to be sitting here and saying things like that. But I do have some issues with the Gyökeres situation. He's too isolated. The service isn't good enough, and we're not doing enough in these moments to get the ball to him in certain situations. I think he held the ball up well when he got it. He was outmuscled a few times, but he was kind of put down blind alleys and wasn't supported enough in moments where he was there. The one time he was supported was when Jurriën Timber came towards the box and he held the ball up in the box and got the ball back for a shot. When I think it led to a corner or another opportunity. But if Gyökeres has been brought in to be the transformative figure for Arsenal, then we have to find a way of getting him more involved in the game. We have to find a way of adapting and utilising him better. Because for me, what I watched was a game that was crying out for Kai Havertz. And that's not a slight on Gyökeres. That's a situational element of how we approach the game. We approached our build-up like we have always approached our build-up, with a false nine, with a centre forward that drops in, adds to the build-up, and there was this big gap between kind of Marino and Rice and Gyökeres. And this big gap was filled by a big, I want Kai Havertz dropping in linking play, but that's not who we have. So we shouldn't play like that when we have a striker like Gyökeres. We need to play a very different type of game for a different type of striker, and we didn't see that yesterday. So that's where I'm kind of so frustrated about this game. And look, I think if we had Eze on from the start, I think Arsenal might win this game. I think if we have Saka, if we have Saliba, if we have Havertz, we might win this game. I agree with Arne Slot's comments after the match where he said, if you play this game 10 times, 8 times it's a draw, 1 time Liverpool win because of an amazing free kick, and another time Arsenal win probably because of a set piece. I agree completely with Arne Slot's analysis of this game. That's how it would play out. It was an 80% chance of being a draw, that fixture, 10% chance of being an Arsenal win, 10% chance of being a Liverpool win. But the reason it was like that wasn't because of Liverpool. It was because of us. And that's what frustrates me, because we were the protagonists of this game. We were the ones that had the onus on us to take this game and make it our own, and we didn't do that. And that's why I'm frustrated as an Arsenal fan. I'll take the journalism hats off right now. I'm speaking as an Arsenal fan. The onus, the emphasis was on Arsenal to be the protagonists of this game. And we decided, we didn't fall away from being a protagonist. We decided that that wasn't going to happen. That came across in Arteta's kind of post-match thing where he said, you can't defend for 90 minutes. You're right, you can't. You can't, or you can't dominate for 95 minutes or whatever. But you should try. You should try, if you want to win the league, to go to your main rivals and try to dominate them for as much as feasibly possible. And we didn't set up to do that. We took the safe option. We took the same option that we have taken before. And I feel slightly let down that we did that. I feel even more let down with the answer that I got because I think there was a little bit of disingenuous is the right word, but to say that that's what we had when you had Waneri on the bench, when you had a fit Eze on the bench. I don't buy it for a second that, he's had a few training sessions, 6 training sessions or whatever. You can't start him. You absolutely can start Ebere Eze. You absolutely can. He looked fit as a fiddle when he came on. He looked absolutely fine when he came off the bench, and he looked great. And I think if we'd have had Eze, I was saying to Simon Collins, who was sat next to me, if we had Eze on right now in this first half, we'd probably be leading right now. But we didn't because he played it safe. That's my rant. That's my rant done. So where does this leave us? And I'm conscious of the time because I haven't been able to talk about deadline day, and I need to be out of this flat in about 15 minutes to catch a train. So let me end part one by just saying, and I'm sorry if I don't get to many of your comments today, but I'm in a real rush and I need to get a lot off my chest. So where I'm at with this is if you are in a meltdown phase and you're sitting there saying, "Oh, out," I have no time for that. Absolutely none. And the people that are saying that are the people who've been saying it for years. I have no interest in listening to that point of view. If you're in a situation where you are concerned by the fact that we have gone to a game where we should have been the protagonists, as I say, and Arteta has again chosen the safe option, I absolutely empathise with your concern. 100%. I'm with you. I'm with your concern totally, wholeheartedly. And I sincerely hope that Arteta looks at this game, hears the noise to a degree, and recognises that we can't win a league doing that. Now, Arsenal didn't win the league last season because of games against Liverpool, City, or whatever. They didn't win the league last season or the season before because they dropped points against silly teams. We know that the difference between Arsenal winning and not winning the league mainly is their consistency, to win the games that they should win. They've been excellent in big games. As I say, it's the first Big Six side we've lost against since April 2023. Incredible record, transformative record since before Arteta arrived. We were awful against big teams before Arteta came here. We have an excellent record against them now, and this is a bit of a blot on that. And as I said, we probably shouldn't have lost the game, even though we did. But the reality is that over the course of this season, it's going to tell us whether Arsenal are going to be good enough under this manager, I think, to win the league. This is the season that will tell me if we're good enough to do that. 8 signings brought in, record summer spend. He's been backed. There's no excuses when it comes to the squad. We've got injuries. That sucks. But we didn't have to do what we did yesterday, and that's on him. The players executed the plan. I can't have a complaint about the players. I can complain about what I know about Martinelli, but I knew that before kickoff. It's not like I learned anything in this game about any of those players that I didn't know already. And no, I don't sound like Peter Schmeichel because what Peter Schmeichel said after the game was ludicrous. This idea that he wanted Arsenal to lose because he was the worst, it's an ugly brand of football, blah, blah, blah. It's an ugly brand of football compared to what we have come to see Arsenal under Arsene Wenger during the Invincibles. That is the pinnacle of footballing talent and philosophy and exuberance. The game's changed. The game isn't like that anymore. And it's not like Liverpool showed Arsenal amazing football yesterday to win the game. They didn't. They scored a brilliant goal. But to kind of just simplify the analysis of yesterday to say that Arsenal played an ugly brand of football and Liverpool were this amazing footballing genius that just created beautiful triangles and passing movements. That's absolutely rubbish. That's not the case. Both teams were bad yesterday. It wasn't a good example of how to play a game of football between two title challenging teams. Both teams look vulnerable. I can't believe Liverpool are sitting on 9 points right now at the start of the season. They shouldn't be on 9 points. They're very lucky to be on 9 points at the start of the season. But the reality is they are on 9 points. But Arsenal should have gone into this game with more protagonism, if that's the word, with more onus, with more emphasis on being the main factor in it, and they didn't. They went in too cautious, they went in too conservative, and they were punished. They went, and I'll round this off with the way in which I started this, is that they went into this game to snatch victory rather than going into it to grab victory. And I'm disappointed by that. And that's just where I am. Well, let's go to part two and a very quick roundup of deadline day right after this. Right, this is indeed part two of today's show, where we'll be tackling plenty of your thoughts, your comments, your feelings, and more, if I can get to them. I'm very confident. I was meant to do 15 minutes on the game, and I've done half an hour because I just, sometimes it just things need to be said. Deadline day. Let me round you up. I've written a piece that's gone out on football.london. You can read that on the website. It kind of goes in a lot more detail than I can say in these moments about where Arsenal are at right now on a front of a number of deals. We've got Kivior, we've got Hincapié. Those deals are, in my knowledge, expected to be announced today. Hincapié was in London yesterday. On all that processes were going on. He's expected to be announced today. So that deal, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be done. So Arsenal will sign Pierre Hincapié from Leverkusen on loan with an option to buy of around £45 million, which by all accounts will be paid next summer. Brilliant deal. Great player. Really good upgrade on Kivior. Excellent business. Andrea Berta is the GOAT of the summer window. I have no doubt about that. When it comes to outgoings, Kivior, as I say, 27 million euros. The deal is around that kind of figure. I think it's 25 million euros plus 2 million euros in add-ons. That's the agreement between the clubs. There's an expectation that that deal, of course, will be happening as well, and that will be paid. So Kivior out, upgrade in. Simple as that. It's a really good piece of business. Elsewhere, Reece Nelson. He needs to find a club today. There's been interest in Fulham. There's been interest in Crystal Palace. There is a hope that something will happen. But so far, as we sit here right now at 8:30 in the morning, it's a little slow. But I think it's one of those where we'll start to see things pick up as the day goes on, and he wants to find something. His wages, though, are a bit of a problem. Alexander Zinchenko, similar situation in terms of wages. They have proven to be a bit of a stumbling block all summer. I said this the other day, I get the sense, my instinct is that Zinchenko might end up staying unless something just pops up out of nowhere today, because that's kind of what we're heading towards. So Zinchenko, at the moment, looks like he's staying. Fabio Vieira looks like he's going to go to Germany. I think that is where it's heading towards right now. There are a number of clubs in Germany that are interested. Hamburg are interested. Stuttgart are still interested. That interest did not flitter away. It's still there, but they have made that move for El Kanous. That could have an impact on Vieira. West Ham are also thought to be interested in him, although Paquetá now does look like he's staying, so that could have some form of impact, but they may still yet be interested in signing Vieira. So Vieira, I would expect to find a solution to his future today. If I was betting on it, I would say, I think Vieira is probably going to go today rather than stay, as opposed to Zinchenko, who I'd say is more likely to stay today than go. I think Vieira is more likely to go today than stay. And of course, staying with Germany and Hamburg, brilliantly reported by Ryan Taylor in the Mirror, broken the story yesterday that Albert Sambi Lokonga is expected to sign permanently for Hamburg. Had that confirmed yesterday. That is very much the case. Hamburg looked to be securing a permanent deal for Lokonga. Not expected to be a big fee at all. Of course, he was on loan at Sevilla last season. They had an option of around 10 million to buy him. They didn't take that offer. So you can expect that, I think, will probably end up being single digits. If Arsenal get double digits for Lokonga, they've done very well. But I'm not expecting that to be the case at all. So, again, when we have more information around the fees and the costs, we'll, of course, bring that to you on the football.london website. And yeah, that's kind of it. I think I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else, but I think off the top of my head, because that's how I'm doing it, that is indeed about it. Other incomings, I would be very surprised. I'd be very, very, very surprised if Arsenal signed anybody else. I know that some people have been selling you a dream about Rodrigo for quite a long time. Yes, there was definitely interest in Rodrigo. 100% the club were very conscious of the situation and very across the situation. Ebereze's signing has changed that. that scenario, of course, as brought in, see where he came on yesterday, where he played on the left, came on for Martinelli. That is an area where they clearly feel that he is going to be usable for us, even though they see him as a central player as well. Still very much a situation whereby as they can be used as a left-sided player. So overall, 8 signings, committed to spending over £300 million with that Nketiah option, of course. Record-breaking deals, hopefully some outgoings as well. The squad is stronger. The situation is so much stronger than it was this time last season. We've lost some key players already. Saka out, White out, Havertz out, Jesus out, Erdegaard injury, Trossard injury, Norgard out. Saliba, of course, injured as well at the start of the game yesterday. I don't expect Arsenal to respond to that injury in the market. He walked past me in the mix zone. He was limping, a slight limp, but there was no boot, there was no crutches, which is obviously a positive sign. Arteta said that he kind of twisted his ankle, which can be very painful. So he wasn't very comfortable, and that's why they brought him off. But hopefully, there's nothing serious there, and he'll be okay. But I don't expect Arsenal to respond to that. I think hopefully he'll be all right, which is positive news. But yeah, let's see. Arsenal, what I will say is that they are still very active when it comes to kind of opportunities. So they move players out. If an opportunity arises that they think is too good to say no to, they will be across it. They'll be monitoring it. They'll be looking at it. They're not shut. They're not closed. We're not saying Nketiah is it, and then they are shutting the doors and they're not even thinking about transfers. They will, particularly Andrea Berta, will be across things. And if an opportunity emerges in some kind of shape or form, of course, they'll look at it. Right. I'm going to dedicate 5 minutes, if I can, to some of your comments. I'm really sorry I can't go through as many of them I usually would, but I need to be conscious about the time that I need to get the train, and I need to get this uploaded on audio. By the way, if you're an audio listener and this has been uploaded a little bit later, I'm really sorry about that, but train, Wi-Fi and all that, I was trying to do my best to do it for you, but it is tricky. Right, let's go to Lil Techie says, Tom, Arteta really needs to evolve this season and has to take more risks than ever before and stop playing it safe in these types of games. It could cost us the chances of winning major things this season. Absolutely agree with you. You're spot on. I don't really see anything. I don't have any issue with that at all. Patrick says, our XG from open play is second lowest in the league. I don't care about losing football matches, but this conservative approach is just frustrating and it's not fun. That's the damning issue. Look, if you win games, in the end, it doesn't really matter. But the fact of the matter is we didn't win yesterday, so we have to talk about the approach. The approach was wrong. We need to be more proactive. We need to be more attacking. We need to be more dominant. And I'm hoping that a player like Eze, of course, is going to be transformative in that. I'm hoping when we get some players back from injury as well, that will also help with things. But yes, I think, Patrick, you are absolutely right. D. Amuna says, Tom, could you say that we were conservative when we had more shots and created more chances than Liverpool, especially in the first half? As I said before, you can be conservative even if you're having more shots and more chances because both teams were. Liverpool were bad. We were bad. But it created a quite good game. Overall, the game itself, if you were a neutral, was a pretty good game. But from an Arsenal point of view, it wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't what we wanted to see. We did create some opportunities. We did create some moments that we should have done better with. But both teams weren't great. And as I said before, it was 80% going to be a draw, 10% them, 10% us. They got that little bit of magic that ended up giving them the victory. 35 says, Tom, did you not find it concerning that when Mosquera was brought on, the only defensive midfielder we could bring on was Lewis Skelly? Well, Nketiah, of course, is coming in. So that's going to add another option for us. Ben White, we hope maybe will be back after the international break. Norgard, of course, as well. There's hope that he might be back after the international break, fingers crossed. And then Saliba as well. His injury is hoped not to be too serious. Dan says, Tom, Martinelli drifting outside into the Gyökeres path instead of continuing to drift inwards, giving him more space to play the ball or go at goal was tough to watch, eyes glued to the ball. Yeah, and it's been that way, unfortunately, for a long, long, long time. Iama says, Tom, I'm trying not to be too reactive, but does this not raise legitimate questions over Arteta being the one to get us over the line? Yes, of course it does. And I think that this is the difference between, this is part of one of those things between, are Arsenal going to win the league under Arteta or not? We don't know now. And that's why if you hear people going, oh, take him out, it's not really conducive to a strong conversation. But without a doubt, you can have a good conversation and a good chat about whether or not, as you ask, it's a concern. Because it is a concern. It's one game this season where he's arguing that he felt like with the players that are available to him, that's the way he had to set up. I don't agree. I personally think he could have gone with Guarneri instead of Marino or started Eze. He doesn't agree. He feels differently. He feels that's the way in which he felt to set up to win the game. And if we would have won the game by one of those chances going in and we won 1-0, we'd all be sitting there and going, oh, what a genius, brilliant, we've won the game, brilliant. But I didn't want to see that approach. I didn't want to see that way of playing. I wanted to see Arsenal be a lot more proactive. I wanted to see Arsenal be a lot more attacking and offensive and taking the emphasis and going for them. But we didn't see that. So, yeah, it absolutely raises legitimate questions. And we will find out the answers to those at the end of the season. Chinho says, Tom, did the performance yesterday lower your belief that Arteta could win us the major? It's not really changed anything, to be honest, about how I feel about Arteta and his capacity to win us a title. Because yesterday didn't teach me anything. He didn't tell me anything I already didn't know. That's the way he likes to set up in those games. And of course, he has explained that by saying that he felt he couldn't do anything different because of the players that are available. I take that at face value. I disagree with it. But again, I didn't learn anything other than I'd already known about how we set up in these types of away fixtures. Ty says, of the 7 players who are out, how many do you think will be back by our next game? Good question. I don't think Saka will be back. Havertz won't be back. Jesus won't be back. Maybe White and Norgard. Maybe. Will be back. But yeah, Capia, of course, will be available for us as well. Jamie says, Tom, what did you make of Gary Neville's expert analysis? I didn't listen to it, so I don't know what he said. I saw some of the clips of some other pundits, and I put a tweet out yesterday, which I wholeheartedly stand by. I think punditry around Arsenal is just redundant. It's boring. It's predictable. It's impossible to get a feeling that there isn't some kind of subtext, to everything that's being said. And whenever there is any kind of relevance to what is actually happening, for me, if anything, it's just a coincidence. It doesn't come from a good place. And I'm really bored of it. I'm bored of how pundits talk about Arsenal. I'm bored of the analysis of Arsenal. It's really, really dull. It's really, really predictable. It doesn't tell us anything new. It's not insightful. It's just rage baiting. Like Schmeichel's comments yesterday were borderline out of order. Like, they just weren't okay. To sit there and say I've never wanted a team to win more than Liverpool, who did not play good football yesterday, is so disingenuous. I struggle with it massively. So yeah, look, punditry is just it's in its worst phase, I think, right now. And I've been a real fan of people like Gary Neville, as I point out in the past, and their punditry and their analysis, and I would stick around after games to listen to it. But right now, in 2025, punditry is at an all-time low, in my opinion, in terms of the value that it brings around the analysis of games, because it just feels like YouTube-y irony, rage baiting. Yeah, it just does feel that way to me. It's changed. I want to go back 10, 15 years to what punditry was then. It's not like that anymore. And as I said, Jay says his analysis was spot on. As I said, I think if there is anything you think spot on about the analysis, it's coincidental. It's nothing to do with like brilliant, well thought out things. It's just, it coincidentally fits with the game. It doesn't come from anything other than, my opinion, just boring rage baiting these days. It's just so dull. Yeah. And that's where I feel about it. Wes says, Mourinho isn't mobile enough in midfield, but I felt Arteta went into the game wanting to stifle Liverpool and not giving them too many chances, but that's fine as long as you don't end up losing. Exactly. I don't really know what else I can add to that. I think that's probably the perfect comment to kind of end. I don't agree with how we set up. I don't agree with Arteta's answer about the question about the conservative nature of the midfield selection. I personally think things could have gone differently, but at the same time, I'm absolutely confident that Arsenal can win their next 3 games against Forest, City, and Newcastle. And we'll sit here after 5 games with 12 points, I hope and pray, and be in a very different place. If we're not, and we end up dropping more points, then we'll have the conversation when we get there. But I'm not going to let a game that could have easily gone either way yesterday sway my opinion into absolute madness, as some people sadly will do to you today. just try and keep your head screwed on through this international break a little bit tight. As I say, screw that common sense hat on a little bit tighter through this international break. Enjoy the break. I think it's needed. I'm going to take a few days off doing shows over the break because I'm going to Italy over next weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, there won't be shows on the mornings. I'm going to take a break. I think you should take a break and then come back and join me on that Tuesday. But we will be live tomorrow. We will be live on Wednesday, Thursday, and then, of course, back the following week after I've had a few days off during the international break. Just, yeah, don't lose your heads too much. Have your rants, as I have today. Have your, get it out your system, speak your truth, all that lovely stuff. But, yeah, at the end of the day, neither team deserved to win the game yesterday. Liverpool ended up winning it because of a moment of magic. I wanted more from Arsenal. It is concerning for me somewhat, and I do have my concerns going forwards, but I'm equally confident that Arsenal can go and win their next 3 games against 3 good opponents and still look very, very good in the race for the title. So let's wait and see. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time and your listenership, as usual. There'll be coverage, of course, throughout deadline day, as I've mentioned, the football.london website. So go check out all the articles and all the pieces that are going on over there throughout the day. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, as always. Up the Arsenal.